We're gonna start this
Wait a minute
afternoon.
here, we
We
just,
just voted, sorry.
we just went live.
Can we do it again?
No, this is Senate Appropriations and it's Friday, April 19th, and we're continuing and our plan. And we will finish this bill this afternoon. So, all right, this is a good place to start. So put yourself on the record, we'll run through this.
Sure, Emily Byrne from the Joint Fiscal Office. So to start with, we thought we'd go through updates to the education fund appropriations. So, as everybody is aware, these numbers continue to be in flux as school budgets come in, but we thought it prudent to make sure that we update the appropriations based on the information that we know today related to education funds, school budgets, ADM calculations, etc. So you'll see these are the education fund appropriation that come out of the Agency of Education. So this doesn't include teachers' retirement. So it's not the total education fund appropriation. But there are a couple updates, and I'll run through them quickly. In B 504.1, the flexible pathways appropriation. This is the one that this is the only one where the Senate is taking a different position from the House.
And if you would remember, what the House did was reduce flexible pathways by $1 million, and it's going to use it for community schools. But that's in a separate bill and would have to be created. It would require notwithstanding language because that in fact would be an expenditure that is not normally allowable under the Ed Fund. So that bill, miscellaneous bill, will move separately, and the $1 million for community schools will be in that bill. And it will be in addition to what we have here. So what we wanted to do is, based on our discussion, flexible pathways is an entitlement. People in higher education were quite concerned that somehow it could end up with somehow constraint on students taking advantage of the options in flexible pathways. So this is moving the base back to where we believe the need to support what we believe will be the need. So that's just a reflection of our decision not to agree with the House, to keep the appropriation here at the level recommended by the administration.
The next one, the education spending grant. This is the big ed payment made to school districts. This has come down from what was in the governor's recommend, and the House version is what was in the governor's recommend. They made no changes because of just timing related to town meeting day, etc. They left everything at GovRec. So this is bringing that number down based on what we know school budgets are coming in at, but they continue to change as districts keep voting on their budgets. So that number will likely change again in the conference budget as it gets more precise. It does include, you'll see below 505, there's a new line item, the ELL categorical aid. This money was in the governor's direct appropriated in the education spending grant. So we're gonna create a new line item in the budget for the ELL categorical aid.
Just tell us what ELL is.
English language learners.
For those who might not know.
Yeah, and I've got Julia here too, if there's.
I see that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I might, I'm hoping this has nothing to do with weights or the desire to move to a categorical aid rather than a ELL weight.
It was in the bill to have some EL for the schools that had under a certain number of ELL students. We gave them a category.
Yeah, that's
Put yourself on record, Julie.
Julia Richter, JFO. That's correct. So in Act 127, there was the update to the EL weight. There was which of 2.49. There was also an EL categorical aid, as Senator Pritchett mentioned, for school districts that had a smaller number of EL students. I think it was 26 and below. There was an additional categorical aid to support those schools with only a few EL
Okay.
students.
They didn't have enough weights to get a new teacher.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm just, I'm still a little paranoid because we fought that fight over whether it should be a weight in the formula or a categorical aid. So I just want to make sure there's no connection to any attempt to replace categorical.
That's correct. This is just a really a technical correction here to pull it out of the ed spend.
Great, thank you.
This is because the House just forgot I mean, why wouldn't it have shown up in the house?
It was,
They pulled it out someplace else.
it was buried, for lack of a better term, in B 505, and this just makes it more transparent. Rather than included in that line.
Other comments? So, it's not like the other where they reduced it to use it for someplace else. This is just making it very explicit.
Yeah.
Keep going.
The merger support grant, that number is coming down based on updated ADM information, who will qualify for the merger support grants. And similarly with universal meals, updated estimates from the Agency of Education show that that is likely to come in under what was in the House and the governor's version of the budget down to
20,400,000.
Go up.
And that wasn't the house, even reduction from prior.
The House, there's a reduction in the House version on the, there was a BAA reduction in 2024.
That's
So the rest is unchanged.
The rest is unchanged.
So these, will be reflected in the budget that we're moving out today. Unless there's further discussion. Thanks on that. Thank you, Julie, for coming in.
Yes,
You're welcome to stay. I'm sure you'd find it scintillating.
I'm sure I would as well. Unfortunately, I'm under Ed fund work to get back to, but I'm happy to come back for a bit.
So you're always welcome.
Thank you.
I don't
Alright.
have any phone friend.
Okay. So now we're going back to one times again.
One time, unless you want to do position.
Up to you.
Okay,
Well, the position's really tied to the base.
All right, we'll do
So
that
might as
later.
well finish up at one time.
perfect. All right, so we'll start with, this one looks to look very familiar, there's just one very small change, I'll show everybody. The one-time sheet, so we're not gonna spend a lot of time on this.
Well, I got to go.
Duke, uh,
But at the very bottom, highlighted in yellow, is the statewide flood hazard funds in S213. We went back to look at those numbers again, and I had not updated this. This should be 1.925. It was at 2 million yesterday, so that threw a little bit more money down to the bottom line. So now we have a whole $80,000 wiggle room just in case.
We have to make
That
some
over the
concessions
weekend.
to the house. We have 80,000.
We have $80,000. Big deal.
On a $2 billion budget.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a lot of wiggle.
Now you have the other contingent
yes.
list, because we have made some changes there, and I believe we might add one.
Duke.
So, committee, you may have remembered yesterday, the question came up, I believe, from Senator Sears. The House had taken money out of the community coalitions, out of the base, and substituted one-time money to make up for it. We said, no, that was consistent with the use of the cannabis excise tax. And we did not agree to, fund the base cost with one time and use the base freed up to spend somewhere else on a base. And what the House was proposing was a very significant increase to recovery centers. And so we had put it on the contingent list, but in looking at the budget. And go back to health and welfare, one of the uses of the opioid settlement, in fact, is over $1 million to recovery centers. To provide support to people exiting incarceration or might be on probation or parole. So what when we get to the base, proposing to do is two areas where the 3% was not factored in. One is youth service bureaus, and the other was recovery centers. So we are going to add those to the 3%, and that's community-based organizations, the same as the others. And that's why it got moved off, because concern was that really it would easily be felt it was a base increase, which was requested, but that then ties into the work that Senator Lyons and committee did relative to the certification and the various ways of looking at what is a growing need and also a growing service area that's asking to be funded out in the future. So that is one of the changes. Now, Senator Persnick, do you want to add your 350 at this point?
Yes, for the loan loss reserve at VITA for the
Okay.
flood damaged businesses. But that's part of H10, so when we get the bill, we can get in the details, we could, or we could add language into the budget. How would you want to do
I
that?
would prefer to do it all in the budget, because it would have to be negotiated, so, and it's on the contingent list, so
Yes.
if you have language that we can add, to go with this.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, how much of that?
350,000 would be a loan loss. VITA thinks that means they can do $6 to $9 million in loans. That would go through the veggie program, so if they met all the veggie criteria, then they would get it converted to a grant.
So
Yes,
I don't know how, when you get to the language, and
which
I
one?
say on number 8, for long-term care
Oh,
initiatives,
we're doing, we'll do the language afterwards,
perfect,
okay.
which is.
This is just dealing with the money, and the language, will come separately.
Yep.
All right, so that was the one change in terms of, why we removed something, contingent from the contingent list. We'll add the veto request. And, that's the only change here. That's why Emily was bringing this up. And then it will tie back into a change in the base appropriation for, youth service bureaus and the, ongoing, an inflation increase for the recovery centers system. Okay,
One quick question on that, where do you want us, in the priority list, where do you want us to slot the
it'll be number 12, I think.
number 12, okay.
I would just say do that long-term. I think I'd like it split out, 500 and 500,
Okay,
if that,
you don't remember we had rounding positions and then we had, LNAs, so,
Oh, yeah.
on number 8,
And I
you
put
wanna
the-
do it.
I
oh,
put the
you're right.
LNAs above the physicians.
Great. And rounding physicians. Rounding physicians.
But the LNAs would be above.
But that doesn't change the money, it's just
Nope.
simply saying.
Change the numbers.
Split it out.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments or changes to this? Right? Now. We're on to. Grady, or shall we go on to Chris at this point? Or positions,
see
let's go to the position.
Yeah, I've texted Grady. Go find Grady.
He didn't leave for Gardner Bell.
Grady? Me too. That would keep it interesting though, if we just disappointed.
Yeah, we'll go to positions. Yeah, why don't you come up? So, in the various bills that we've had come through, as well as some recommendations for, spending. The result is positions, we need to carry out the purpose of the bill, certainly 213, which is the river corridor flooding, floodplains, it's an example of that, but also dealing with the judiciary backlog and just the criminal justice system and a couple of other areas. We are adding positions to state government, and so Amy has, and so we have to create them. Some will be limited service as it relate to the court backlog, because that's for a prescribed, piece of work. So this is what we're doing now, is the positions that in total have been created between the various bills. For example, the CTE coordinator and the literacy person, so. And I don't know, I don't think we necessarily need to go through them all, but it gives you a sense of where they are occurring. And these are the ones that we've kind of done over time, but in terms of considering them, but this is putting them all in one place. So I think if you want to go through this very quickly, in terms of what we have here, we can. Yeah, I'm glad to see it's 9. In the Department of Labor. Yes. Okay, so let's run through this very, very quickly. We're not gonna review them all. We've actually approved them. This is just simply a list of the positions that have to be created based on the work of the committee and the bills that the Senate has passed.
So Amy Pope for the Joint Fiscal Office, and so the first, so what you have before you is sort of showing the difference between the what the House added and then what you're recommending so far. The first one is a criminal history record specialist, public safety. They felt that this is budget neutral due to some overtime related to background checks.
We don't need to go into.
Okay, there you go. So
If somebody has a question, please ask, but what
I'll be
obviously here is you can see what the governor recommended to the House and then what we have done that was not included in either version of the budget. And so the first one, I guess, would be what we did in S310.
That's right. You did 2 additional positions over the governor and House. The next group in environmental conservation, these numbers may change based on the money that's in the base, but we have 17 positions and 213. S98 had a couple of positions.
That were the number not in the base, but in the debt.
These would be base.
But this was, the bill had even more. Didn't we shrink it from what the bill is? This is
16.
So this number may change. The number of positions may change.
But we did reduce the funding.
right. I just thought this number is what was in the bill. not-
That's correct.
not Based on
Yeah.
this.
No, these are positions that we could fund. And still have a balanced budget.
So there were more in the bill than period.
I'm not sure. It was hard to track.
Yeah, I think it was either one more or there were FTEs included, so 15 is pretty.
So, and then S98, of course, is your bill, Center Alliance, and that is, not a general fund demand, but it's, out of the, no, it's out of that, out of the information.
Base education advertising fund.
Yeah, that's it.
The next,
The only question I have is, the judicial officer tool. What is a judicial officer?
it's about safety and security.
So are we getting rid of the sheriff?
No, this actually would fund more sheriffs. Right now, we've got some private security, and so there was a study done by the judiciary of what it would need to really have people who are certified law enforcement, providing the security in the courthouse.
Okay, I remember.
All right, well, I guess Center Star is way down the bottom of the page.
The others,
I think the others, why don't we just do where we're somewhat different than, maybe what the House did, and the first one is 304. That's our CTE coordinator, which we felt now as we're trying to do more with Korean technical ed. This was something the governor recommended, the House did not, but our education committee, requested it. Okay, the other, let's see,
Next difference.
Superior Court judge. The governor had included 2, and we are adding another for a total of 3. One of those positions, in fact, is a master that's being converted to a judge position. All right, so this is, again, getting into what Senator Sears prioritized. I think he only had 30 million plus requests. So, this is, special investigative unit. They do a lot of, but they really specialize in investigation of sexual abuse. So that's based on his recommendation. And now we're down to really where I think this gets into the limited service and it ties into how to get rid of the court backlog. That is really a great concern. And people are complaining about the length of time to get cases heard. We also heard, very troubling information. For example, we have children in foster care whose parental rights can't get terminated because the hearings haven't been scheduled. And so this is why we're doing limited service here. And this is all based on what Senator Sears and his committee prioritized in terms of how to best allocate additional funding and positions across that whole system, whether it's whether it's the courts, state's attorneys, defender general, and so forth. So let's keep going, also you can see deputy state's attorneys, victim advocate, and then we're down to legislative council. And that is something that we had requested, and I think it's conversion, wasn't it, from, was there a vacant one or something we might be converting, or is it?
For the law clerk, there were 2 sort of seasonal positions that they will be abolishing and then replacing them with best practice.
Also the IP folk, we had testimony on that. So now we're on to the second page.
So the second page, these are current limited service positions that would be converted to permanent status positions. And specifically for labor, their funding is now a permanent source of funding, so it would make sense to make those positions.
It's federal funding too. And the other thing is limited service costs as much as just a regular employee, from, so it's the conversion doesn't come with a price tag. But we did find out that those federally funded positions, Department of Labor, needed to be corrected to 9, and then the one coordinated position. Okay, questions on this?
Why the track changes under the Department of Labor?
It's a mistake.
It's just.
The request was for the filled positions and there was 1 vacancy, so we would convert the vacancy to permanent as well.
And any other questions?
What happens if when the bill, does it matter? If the bill numbers on here are just for our reference. It doesn't
Yes, they will.
matter.
213 is under deliberation right now, and the understanding is that the our budget would include the funding for the positions and
But if the bill changed and it didn't have the same number of positions,
that,
doesn't matter.
well, we, in the committee conference, we can all change it.
What about, I'm not seeing anything for the housing bill. The House, 687, big bill, with there no positions in 311 or,
Not that we have. The positions, there were some positions in DCF to do the workload associated with emergency housing.
Mhm.
That might be what you're thinking of. But the grants a lot for housing are going to outside entities,
Mhm.
like, So this is what we have here, create. It doesn't mean there isn't workload that would be, associated with it, with existing staff, but. Other questions, Amy? Where is Grady?
They are on their way.
Oh, well, that's encouraging. Um. And I would just like everyone to know that it's not very, easy to see, but this is all draft right now. Until we get the bill voted, this is all draft. And so, if in fact something should be changed, just, and it does say draft, but it's very hard to see. Not as though it's crossed. I don't know how to do that.
I'll learn that.
Okay,
It's bigger than it was last,
it's true.
now bolded. Huge funds, it's bolded.
Well, I want to compliment it, the lettering's really easy. So you can all see it.
Yeah. Should we put a bounty on grading? Is that,
He's doing his best.
if you can get grade here, you get to add one section.
Starless out the door so fast.
They trade suits.
Well, we're moving right through. We've got it all organized just once we get it. And there are a couple of changes that we need to make. The miscellaneous tax bill as well. So we have Chris Roof to do that and touch base with our accountants across the hall. I feel like we've just managed about 20 bills have converged on us to figure out how to make sure that we've got everything here. We did move this one support, I hope, from DCF to, Defender General. The fuel language, we took care of, that was fine. Beamers, we've added, the 3.5 goes into the fund created in S310. So we've got to make sure this language is all here. The PCB language, I think, is probably coming up. I do have a response relative to the, proposed language from around, contracted or agency nurse and of the assignment.
Who's it from?
It is from Adam Gresham, and I can have copies made.
Oh.
It's not. Obviously, they're identifying their concerns about it.
Yeah.
And they do not support the language. What I would think that I'm prepared to do, and we could do, maybe I can talk, and that is that we send a letter to the Attorney General, because this seems to be very much a legal issue, and the question is one of, what are the legal remedies, or how we would address,
I think that would be fine.
this contract.
Yeah. So, and it's just not an easy topic.
No, but if that would be an alternative, I'm more than willing to, send a letter.
Yeah.
So that in fact, there seems to be some, form of, I don't know, not necessarily contract law. And so I just wanted to let you know that we did get a response. We can look at it, but, they feel that the agency, human services to do this is, would be a vast expansion of their scope and mission, so.
Okay.
Yes. Grady's printing everything. Do you want to stay live for 5 more minutes while we finish printing? Or
Why don't we go off?